Welcome to Sino-US Observation. Here, you can learn about the hot events between China and the US. If you are interested, don't forget to follow our channel. We all know that 2019 is known as the first year of 5G, because many countries around the world have opened 5G networks this year, opening a new era of communication, which is the so-called Internet of Things era of the Internet of Everything. In 5G, China has also become a leader from the previous role of chaser and follower. You must know whether it is from 5G patents, 5G technology, and 5G base station shipments, or 5G chips. Look, Chinese companies are the most advanced in the world. In order to take the lead in communication technology, it can be said that China has put in too much effort in the past 10 years. Starting from TD-SCDMA technology, it has been continuously researching, and finally surpassed the United States in communication technology. And now that China's communication technology surpasses the United States, let's look at the next decade, and perhaps it will be followed by China surpassing the United States in the field of semiconductors. There are several reasons why I say this. First of all, China is the country with the largest demand for semiconductors, and the demand will stimulate the continuous efforts of enterprises. From the current situation, the number of Chinese semiconductor enterprises has exceeded 2,000. Whether it is design, manufacturing, or packaging and testing, everyone significant progress. The second is state support. The first phase of the National Integrated Circuit Fund reached 138.7 billion yuan, and the second phase of the fund was as high as 200 billion yuan. The effect of investing this money is obvious. The third is that technology, talents, materials, etc. have ushered in great development. At present, the conditions for domestic semiconductors to take off are basically ready. Although some key equipment is still slightly lacking, with the development of time, there will inevitably be great achievements. According to the plan, the domestic chip self-sufficiency rate will reach 40% in 2020 and 70% in 2025. So we really have reason to believe that in the next 10 years, China will definitely overtake in the semiconductor field. Just like the previous 10 years, it will surpass the United States in communication technology and become the world's most leading country. What do you think? In addition, TSMC founder Morris Chang gave a rare interview in April this year. He believes that Congress's current attempt to provide $50 billion in subsidies to U.S. semiconductor companies in the hope that they will become industry leaders is a very expensive futility. While he may be right that U.S. companies are unlikely to overtake TSMC, that's not the point. A complete reliance on Taiwan for advanced semiconductors would jeopardize U.S. national security. TSMC produces 92% of the advanced semiconductors needed in every smartphone, laptop, and ballistic missile. American companies such as Nvidia, Qualcomm, and Apple have outsourced almost all of their manufacturing to Taiwan. If Taiwan's chip-making capacity goes offline or falls into the hands of China, the U.S. tech industry will be hit hard. Conflict in the Taiwan Strait could spark a national security crisis over chips, as former Deputy Defense Secretary Robert Walker warned. We are 110 miles away, the distance from Taipei to the mainland from 2 generations ahead to 2 generations behind. Washington recognizes the need to prevent Beijing from seizing the chips that power American electronics. Still, policymakers are trying to prevent China from taking over the semiconductor market with its strategy of dominating telecom infrastructure, solar panels, and electric vehicles. The Biden administration proposed a $50 billion semiconductor investment plan through the American Innovation and Competition Act, but the bill is still being discussed in Congress but has not passed. If Congress passes the bill, U.S. investment would still be only a third of what the Chinese government spends. From 1990 to 2020, China built 32 semiconductor gigafactories, compared with 24 in the rest of the world. None are made in the United States. U.S. companies can no longer produce cutting-edge chips because the cost of operating a semiconductor factory in East Asia is half that of the United States, Zhang said. Even with ideal policies, U.S. companies are unlikely to displace TSMC's leadership in advanced chips. At the same time, China has made impressive achievements in the semiconductor field. Mainland China is expected to overtake Taiwan as the world's largest chip maker as early as 2025. The company already prints more than half of the world's circuit boards, which are necessary to mount device chips. Mainland China controls key raw materials that form bottlenecks in the supply chain, 70% of the world's silicon, 80% of tungsten and 97% of gallium are produced in China, all three of which are essential in semiconductor manufacturing. If mainland China develops a lasting advantage in the semiconductor supply chain, it will achieve breakthroughs in fundamental technologies that the United States cannot match. For example, chips tailored for deep learning will transform society and enable technologies such as self-driving cars and state-of-the-art vaccines. America cannot get out of this predicament by spending money. In addition to the $50 billion investment in the semiconductor industry proposed by President Biden, three policies are necessary for the United States to win the competition in the semiconductor industry. First, the U.S. should step up its efforts in the lagging semiconductor manufacturing sector. Advanced semiconductors are at the heart of smartphones and laptops, but only account for 2% of the global semiconductor market. U.S. companies such as Intel and GlobalFoundries excel at making slower chips that are used in everything from TVs to tanks. The government can support these companies by quickly issuing factory licenses and providing tax credits for R&D and manufacturing investments. Second, the U.S. should use its political leverage over the governments of Taiwan and South Korea to persuade TSMC and Samsung to form partnerships with U.S. chip designers to manufacture advanced semiconductors in the U.S. Both South Korea and Taiwan depend on the security commitments of the U.S. military. Joint ventures with U.S. companies such as Qualcomm and Nvidia will ensure that the U.S. defense sector is capable of fulfilling its commitments to these countries. The push from both governments, combined with U.S. tax breaks and subsidies, could convince TSMC and Samsung that it is in their interest to produce more chips in the U.S. Third, the United States should strengthen the link between R&D and manufacturing. Most technological innovations come from the interaction between the two. The Innovation and Competition Act has made strides in this direction by encouraging investment in R&D and manufacturing. Overall, the U.S. is on the brink of failure in the chip race. Unless the U.S. government mobilizes a national effort like it did to create the technology that won World War II, China may soon dominate semiconductors and the cutting-edge technologies they will advance. What do you think of the idea that China will soon surpass the U.S. in semiconductors? Well, that's all for today's video. Let's continue with the next video.